Oh, wait, here we go. Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, your humble host, Charlie the Professore. And with me, as always, is my right-hand man. Don't ask me what my right-hand man does.
I'm very busy. Fill me in, Parrish.
He is a busy man. He is the founder of the Capes and Lunatics broadcast channel. All of your one-stop shop for everything Cape or lunatic related in the world of multiple medias. So hey, guess what, Phil? Guess what I recently finished, or finished the first.
Oh yeah, your blog.
My blog. Did you read it yet, Phil? No, there's no time to read.
No, I read some of it. I didn't finish the whole thing yet, but I was very intrigued.
I told you didn't read it yet. No. Yeah, I'm very excited, kids. You're going to see it very soon. And for a little bit of serendipity, a post on my Facebook. Remember when you used to write thing from 3 years ago? My memory. Where the MCU fails and how Hawkeye can be saved. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, that was a good one. Repost it so you can all read it if you want on my Facebook page. So anyway, Phil. Any real news this week? Not really. Gotham's back, which we talked about last night.
I was going to say, does it have to be Marvel? Because I was going to say the big news I saw today is they it'll tie in the Marvel a little bit, but that DC that CW DC news we got today that the crossover, the yearly crossover.
Oh yeah,
will be Crisis on Earth X,
which was originally supposed to be Crisis on Earth Swastika. Bum bum bum. That's true. They originally wanted to call Earth X Earth Swastika, and I believe it was Julia Schwartz was the editor at DC. He said, "We're not putting freaking swastikas on the book." So that's why it's Earth X. It was actually supposed to be Earth Swastika. And, because guess what? Swastikas used to be a really controversial thing. People didn't like to promote, Nazis. Because people kind of really had this interesting understanding about the badness of Nazis. So, yeah, DC did not make it Earth Swastika, even though, it's about fighting Nazis. It's that basic. It was the basic problem they had back in the day with they were going to do a Captain America cartoon in I think like the late 80s, early 90s, and one of the things that happened with it was that they couldn't use Nazis in it. They could set it in World War II, but they couldn't use Nazis, and this is essentially where they first came up with this idea of, what if the Red Skull ran Hydra and Hydra wasn't per se Nazis? That was the crazy legend. That was the crazy idea they had. But it carried it forward to the future.
Well, my whole thought I was thinking is, we're just coming out of Secret Empire, and we have the evil Hydra Cap, Stevel, and if this is going to be the, DC and Marvel always rip each other off. If this is going to be the case where, coming out of that, if these CW shows are going to give us the evil CW Green Arrow version of Hydra Cap.
Well, it would make sense because when you think about it, what's his name? Oliver Queen, he's not necessarily a Nazi fighter by birth, He's not necessarily a hero by birth. He's, the son of wealth and privilege. And I could see him, if wealth and privilege became tied to membership in the Nazi Party, I could see him being a Nazi. I could see that happening.
Plus, all these characters are young enough. If you're born into a Nazi regime, you wouldn't know the difference.
Oh yeah. Well, that, and for what it's worth, there's all kinds of crazy. There's so many crazy stories about people who, try to eke out domesticity within fascism. You know, there was it was an HBO. I think it was called Fatherland, which was sort of like about like the Nazis actually like sue for peace, and so the Nazis actually continue on, and you wind up with this guy who's like this. He's a Gestapo agent, but like now the Gestapo is just kind of like the domestic FBI, and like during the war he was on a submarine. And like he knows all of the propaganda, but he doesn't really like feel it because we still have to feel he's a good guy. And no one knows about what happened with the concentration camps. Like everyone, it's just like, oh, just that thing most people forget about the 40s is like, there was a real base level of racism that was pervasive throughout the world. Which is why America really had no problem sending, boatloads of Jews back when they came to America seeking refugee status. Because, hey, why do we want all those people here, they said. They're with their foreign ways and strange customs. What if they're terrorists, we said.
Just because we have the sign out front in Ellis Island, hey.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. America is a country that has great ideals to which they do not always live up. Though in truth, we only don't live up to our ideals because unlike every other country, we actually have ideals. So that is why I will love America forever, because I do think we are a country that has ideals, and that we don't live up to our ideals, less about the fact that we are bad, but more about the fact that we feel bad about the fact that we don't live up to our ideas. At least that's my rationalization for it. But yeah, it would be very interesting to see our Nazi arrow. Our don't know how Mr. Terrific works into all that, but it will be interesting to see what happens. But we're going to get Legends of Tomorrow and all these guys, and of course Stein. He ain't going to be cutting into that, and obviously neither is Dax. So Dax is his name, right?
Jax.
I'm calling him Dax. I'm thinking Jadzia Dax. Got Star Trek on the brain. Yeah, so that's going to be exciting. So, along those same lines, there is an interesting controversy. Again, it's the Nazi episode, kids. So mark it in your notebooks. Rose City Comic Con took a bold stance on cosplay. Did you read about this, Phil?
Oh yeah, the people. I mean, it's about they don't want like hate images, so you're not allowed to dress like the Red Skull or any Hydra agent.
Yeah, they don't want Red Skull, Hydra, or Nazi-inspired characters or Nazi parody characters. So you can't be Captain Hydra this year at Rose City Comic Con. And it's a very interesting thing, because I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because I do, because here's what I'll say. I don't know if Nazis are worse than the Joker. I don't know that. And I'm not going to say, obviously Nazis are real, but the Red Skull isn't,
Mm-hmm.
And it's this I think it's a much more complex question, but given the fact that there is this effort afoot in the fanboy community to sort of press for superheroes as a symbol of hate, I think it goes into this weird spot, There are so many people right now who liked Captain Hydra unironically,
Mm-hmm.
There are too many people out there for whom that white male ideal of superheroes is a little too important to them. And I can see how it's easy to fear the idea that the comic book and cosplay community could become a safe space for people who reject the ideals that we ascribe, well, that other people ascribe to superheroes.
It's just like a tricky balance of like, you want a free space for people, but there's also freedom of speech. I mean, it's a tricky balance. And once again, I mean, a con is a business. So they want people to feel safe, so they'll come and spend money.
Well, exactly. And you know what? I think this is a classic Pepe the Frog situation. I think no one cared that you did a Red Skull cosplay. When Captain America First Avenger came out, if you did a Red Skull cosplay, you stood right next to the person doing the who was that guy with the red face from Star Wars?
Oh, Darth Maul.
Darth Maul doing the Darth Maul cosplay. Separated at birth jokes. I mean, that's what it is. It's this idea that it's like if the Red Skull and the Cenobite had a baby, it'd be Darth Maul. And I think that is a thing where you can have an honest cosplay of it. But you have this problem where when people of certain groups associate themselves with it, it does become far more problematic. And I do think about this with regard to the Confederate flag a lot. Now, while I do understand that the resurgence of the Confederate flag does come from an act of cultural oppression, I also know that it existed in a naive way as just a symbol of F you to authority, which of course is what it was, but it's sort of this question about saying F you to authority and what is the authority we're effing, and who is the you who's getting effed. So I think when I was a kid and Bo and Luke Duke had the Confederate flag on the General Lee, I don't think anyone particularly thought about it in those terms, except for those people for whom it was a triggering, either positive or negative, for them to see it. So for those who saw that Confederate flag and knew too many people with that Confederate flag painted on their car who were racists and took either joy or fear in seeing it, that was where it got to be a problem. Now, as a person today, even though I loved the Duke boys as a kid, Bo and Luke, not Vance and Coy.
Yeah.
Vance and Coy, you are not Duke boys.
They're the Shemps.
Nobody likes you.
Yeah.
Actually, Shemp predates Curly. Shemp was actually the original third stooge, but he had a fear of success, That's why they went back and got Curly. According to the movie I once saw on the subject.
He was the Pete Best.
Yeah. Well, actually, Shemp actually had like success as a solo act.
Hmm.
Which was also why he didn't want to necessarily be in the Three Stooges, because he actually was kind of a known. I mean, he was coming up, and it was like, do I want to go back and hang with my brother and his idiot friend? I don't mind pulling him up, but then of course, his brother and his idiot friend and his other brother wound up getting to be the big stars, and then when sadly Curly had his stroke, they had to bring in Shemp, and man, those guys, they had hard lives. But yeah, no, I think there was an innocence to it, and I think there was an innocence to it that extended beyond race. I think there were a lot of young kids and even adults who knew, when certain symbols are ubiquitous, and this is what I think you have to understand. When a symbol is ubiquitous, like the Confederate flag in the 70s and 80s, it starts to lose its negative connotation. Because you will see folks who are just decent folks who just happen to, want to have, there's a biker gang called the Chinalings in New York City. And their legend, their story, again, according to a documentary I once saw, that Chinaling means F the world. Nazi paraphernalia. Now, mind you, this is mostly a Hispanic biker gang. And they say, well, we're Nazi paraphernalia because Nazis were the worst people ever. And it really freaks people out to see you wearing it. So that's because we want to be like that. We want people to just be freaked out when they see me, And so I get that idea of adopting that iconography for even subverting that iconography so that it becomes much more about rebellion than about what the rebellion was actually about. Much more about saying, I'm an evil monster, rather than saying, I'm an evil monster who does this. But what happens is that when these symbols get too strongly defended by those who are of that evil monster group, suddenly it's like, well, now I can't defend it,
Mm-hmm.
When it's just the good old boys never meaning no harm who want to have a Confederate flag, I can say, hey, they're just good old boys. They ain't meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw. They've been in trouble with the law since the day they were born. I can understand that. But when someone says, yeah, but you do know it's super racist, and you go, oh yeah, I guess it kind of is. And then everyone else says, okay, well, you know what? I'm just a good old boy. I'm not meaning no harm. And if it's really harming you, I'm going to stop doing it. If it really harms you, dude, I don't need a freaking Confederate flag on my car. You're right. I can put the American flag up there. You to the British. So F you, British. We all hate those limey bastards, right? And that's the thing, is like there's many ways that you can express rebellion that isn't being hateful to people. And when other people say, no, I have to have the hateful way to express rebellion, it kind of makes you think, well, I think it's not so much about you rebelling, it's about you wanting to be hateful. And I think that's when we have to say, okay, I guess we don't get to have Confederate flags anymore because you ruined it, Nazis. You ruined it. We can't have statues to Robert E. Lee anymore because you ruined it. If it was just some guy on a horse, no one would care. But because you had to say, well, we're the Nazis and we say we need to keep these statues alive, it's like, well, now we can't defend them. We actually probably could have defended them, and we probably did. Lots of people defended these things for decades. That's the thing you got to understand. For decades, people defended this stuff. It's heritage. It's a culture. It's part of our history. And Robert E. Lee was a great general, and and Stonewall Jackson was a great general, and they were great generals. And if you want to build an icon to a great general, I guess they're not so bad. One could argue that Osama bin Laden was a great general too. We're not building any shrines to him right now. And that is why it gets to be that is why it gets to be a little rough, because essentially when you start saying, well, maybe we should have with a statue to the slaves who were oppressed and remember that history. And then people get all mad, and it's like, well, maybe it's not really about history for you, is it? It's about the history you want to remember and the history you want to forget.
I don't understand the whole concept of statues. I mean, unless it's like art, I mean, just representations in stone or metal of like real people. It just seems weird to me.
Yeah, but you know what? If there was a Nightwing statue in Times Square, you would go to that. If DC, TV Land commissioned all the bronze statues of TV guys, if DC and Marvel started putting up those heroic statues around the country, you would start doing pilgrimages, and you would go.
That's my point. You can consider that art because those aren't real people; those are fictional characters.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that you want to. I mean, I'd go to the Jefferson Memorial where there's a statue of him. I'd go to the Lincoln Memorial. They're real people, but they're still cool people.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you want to put up a statue to Robert E. Lee, that in and of itself is less controversial to me than if
all
you
right. Wait,
than the context around it.
All right, let's play.
That's the context around it is what makes it a problem.
All right, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Okay, what is the difference between a Robert E. Lee statue and a Thomas Jefferson? I mean, Thomas Jefferson, did a lot of good things, but he owned slaves.
Yeah, well, the difference is that Thomas Jefferson didn't fight although ironically enough, technically he did fight a war to maintain slavery, which is what the American Revolution was about. But it wasn't the desire to maintain slaves in the United States was not a central theme of the American Revolution. Whereas it was literally the only theme of the Confederate Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Confederates rebelled against the United States and tried to form their own less perfect disunion, and America, said, not so fast, bitches, and smacked them down hard, that's the difference. That is the literal difference, is that Jefferson owned slaves, but didn't fight to say we must be a slave nation.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we wound up being a slave nation, I don't even think in the Articles of Confederation slavery played that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that slavery really got its codification when we got to, because the Articles of Confederation were a much weaker document as far as representation and things like that.
How do you always drag me down this path? Politics or...
Honestly, man, it's not me. It's Rose City Comic Con.
I know.
And you were the one that started it with Earth X. We're going to go visit the Nazis. We're going to go.
I just thought it was a cool storyline, and Barry and Iris are getting married.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you did that art piece, and they have the Flash, and then they had Barry in the foreground.
I saw that. That's what I was going to say. But hey, fastest man alive. He looks like he could do two places. He can appear in two places at once.
That doesn't really work that way, because
it's symbolic. The man can play ping pong with himself. Come on.
I can play ping pong with myself. You just flip the other side of the board up.
Charlie, this isn't a euphemism. It's real. Talking about ping
pong.
Anyway, did you read this week's Generations, Miss Marvel?
No, I didn't.
Another plot point proving your whole timeline theory.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala shows up in the past, like she hits the ground and goes, "Oh, does anyone have any ibuprofen?" And some guy on the street goes, "Ibu what?"
Yeah, well, because it's in the past. There was no ibuprofen back then. Mm-hmm. All you had was delicious cyanide-laced Tylenol.
They're dropping those hints, man.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. I know you heard me and David Walker when I totally knew what he was doing, man. I was in your head, you comic book writers. But yeah, it's yeah. But that's the thing, and I do think that is a great thing about the Generations idea. No, I was debating it, man, but it's like money is like in that spot. It's like,
But I guess I don't know if they're rushing. I was gonna say I don't know if they're rushing to get Generations done since Marvel Legacy comes out next week, because I guess it's the last two issues of Generations comes out next week, because it's the Spider-Man one and the Captain America one both next week.
Yeah. Well, they got to get it done because these are all one shots. So then we got the Legacy coming. So
so far they've been doing one a week. So I'm guessing they're just like, okay, end of the month, Legacy's coming out. Let's get those last two out.
Yeah, well, because those are your big finale ones. And obviously Captain America, Cap and Cap. Mm-hmm. Sam Wilson and Captain America. Because something in there really plays out why Falcon isn't Captain America anymore.
Oh, well, did you read Avengers this week?
No, I didn't actually.
Oh, because he has a big talk with Jane Foster, because he's not Cap, he's already in that new Falcon suit, and he's like, I need you to lead the Avengers, because I guess the whole point was he was thinking, people aren't going to follow me if I'm not wearing this Stars and Stripes, and she's like, "What are you, an idiot?"
Yeah. I'm sorry, you fell out there on whatever that last word you said was.
Oh, she said, "What are you, an idiot?" She's like, "These Avengers are going to follow you no matter what suit you're wearing." And he's like, "Well, I'm not as high profile, and I'm not the most high profile member anymore." And she's like, "Spider-Man's always been our most high profile member."
Yes, and he wasn't even a member.
But yeah, I mean, it starts with them going back to the Baxter building, and Parker Industries is gone. Thank you, Otto. And they're the first couple of pages are just them going, "Peter Parker's a jerk." I'm like, oh, Charlie's gonna love this issue.
Yes. Does Pete have to move back in with Aunt May?
I don't. Well, they haven't shown yet, but I don't think.
You watch. He's gonna show up at Aunt May's house with Jameson the First, and they're gonna be like, Pete, I really don't have a lot of room in the house anymore. Did you live in a mansion, Aunt? Don't you got like 18 rooms here? Can't I just crash in one? Like, it's like, me and I just want Aunt May to have a little Shih Tzu named Miss Lion. Oh goodness. Yeah. I really haven't gotten. I haven't even read the last two generations. I'm like falling behind them on comic books now. They don't review them all the time, and it's really bugging me because it's like, I hate that feeling. I liked when we did comic book reviews, and I had to have them in, and now I'm just another lazy student not reading his homework assignments.
Should I force you? Should I say, "Hey, we're going to discuss them either on Superconnectivity or Capes and Lunatics this week, so get them read"?
Nah.
Is there just too much content? Is there too much material now between the comics and the TV shows and movies? Is it just an overabundance?
Real life now, Phil. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but there's so much content now. Not even just like superheroes, but just like
Yeah, there's a lot of content, and that takes up a lot of time. I got to watch the shows and do the podcast on the shows, and
Gotham was on last night. We did our special.
But you know what the problem is? What? Is that I think that there are a lot of books that I get more casual about, like Superman. I have not read any of my Superman. I mean, really, if you count the issues I half read, it was like, ugh, Superman, I don't care about American history. Eat a fruit pie. If you count those books, I'm like at 5 books now that I haven't really read of Superman. And I'm like, I'll read them out of obligation, but do I really want to get a 6th book, in 2 weeks? And this is what always happens with me with DC. I get very excited about a character for them, and I read them for a while, and then it's just like the stories don't grab me. Now, New Superman, I'm still into, because I do think he's doing something different. I'm sorry, what?
And Red Hood.
I mean, Red Hood hasn't gotten on the pull list yet. Phil, don't get cocky. We're gonna have to see how Flowers for Bizarro plays out. Because not for nothing, if Flowers for Bizarro just winds up being Flowers for Bizarro, it's not going to be that interesting. They at least need to do Flowers for Rhino. Still, in my opinion, one of the best single comic book issues ever made. Did you ever read Flowers for Rhino?
I don't know if I did.
They did a series of Spider-Man stories. They were like focused on all of his villains, and they were like all a bunch of like 1 or 2 issue things. I don't know if Flowers for Rhino was 1 issue or 2. But basically, it's basically Rhino feeling very, and this is the original Rhino, feeling very depressed as he always is. Ever since they did that Thing Rhino issue where Rhino is being taken out of Project Pegasus because he's, he just wants them to cure him, that he's a willing participant. And then this was actually the first appearance of Scourge because Mr. Miracle shows up and it busts him out, and you know, there's this whole thing that, and basically the very end of it is like just Rhino falling down to his knees and crying and sobbing because he knows they're not going to cure him now. They're not going to even try because he's too great a risk because Mr. Miracle screwed it up because Rhino was being good. He was trying to get his good behavior so he could get some super scientists to freaking take the rhino skin off. And which is why I hate like freaking battle armor Rhino, because it like ruins Rhino. The whole point of Rhino is he got this great power at an amazing cost, which is he lost his humanity. He's basically the Thing, but he's still got a human face. And what is and so when Flowers for Rhino, you basically have the same idea. He's feeling very sorry for himself and very sad. Super scientist evil doctors who are like, dude, we can't take off your skin. You know, it would be easier to do anything to you other than it's like you said, give me laser eyes. Like, sure, I'll give you laser eyes tomorrow, Rhino. Yep. I can't take off your skin. And then he sees they're doing these experiments. They've got this monkey there who's like who's got this intelligence boost. You know, and he's like, and he's like, look, okay, you can't do that. Give me what you did to the monkey. And they're like, well, it's going to be hard cutting into your brain. He says, that's okay. I ain't using it much. That's the whole point. And so they cut into his brain and they do the thing. And suddenly he starts getting smarter. And it's really about him becoming smarter and smarter until he is the smartest being in the world. Winds up taking over all of organized crime. He has figured out every every superhero's secret identity because he created an algorithm to figure it out. And it's like, just basic, hand waving him for everything he does. But and then it becomes about how he gets separated from humanity. And it like starts out with how much he loves this mob guy's daughter named Stella, who, of course, when it starts out, she is very smart and he is very dumb. But as it changes, you get that perspective shift where he gets smarter and she gets more and more just some girl from Brooklyn, And eventually, he can't be with her. And then he starts to realize how empty his life is because he's so intelligent. And they sort of foreshadow this with the monkey because the monkey winds up hanging himself in his cell. Because he just got so smart, he couldn't connect with anything on a human level. And he's about to kill himself when suddenly he gets smart enough to realize, oh, wait, I know how to reverse it. Because the scientists were saying, oh, we have no idea how we could reverse it. That's the problem. Once you do it, it's done forever. And so he writes it down for them. And at the very end, it's this great joke. It just says, wait, before you do this, make me just a little bit dumber so I don't do this again. No, Flowers for Rhino was a great take on the Flowers for Algernon story. It's really beautiful. I highly recommend anyone read it. Google Flowers for Rhino. It'll tell you what issues it's in. And it's a great story. And so they're doing Flowers for Algernon they're doing Flowers for Bizarro. And the problem is that, okay, we've already seen Flowers for Algernon. We've already read Flowers for Rhino. How do you tell this story again without having it just be, and it's Flowers for Algernon, but with Bizarro? Mm-hmm. And I think what they may do is they may have a bit more human goodness involved in it for Rhino. He is, because he is Superman, there's going to be this issue. What I assume is going to be the issue is that he knows he's going to lose this. It's how much good can I do before I lose what I am? And of course, what I think the curveball at the end is he's going to realize I don't have to be a genius to do good. And I was never as dumb as I think I was. That I was, people saw me. So basically, I'm guessing that'll be the take. And it's going to be this other modes of intelligence view of intelligence, sort of like there is the classical supervillain, super scientist intelligence, but that capacity was always in him, but no one assumed it because of the way he talked and the way he behaved and the way he acted. In the same way that, who, suffer from autism, maybe depending on what society they're in, get judged harshly, and no one realizes the intellect inside them. Expression is not what we think about it. And you think about it, we see that every day in the way we treat people with accents. Someone has a hillbilly accent and you think negatively about him. Doesn't matter if he's got a degree in physics, he sounds like a hillbilly. Or you're Ben Grimm, you've got your master's in astronautical engineering. No one cares because they just think you're the dumb guy from Brooklyn. So that's how they can tell that story, and it'll be interesting. So we'll see how they do it. We'll see if they do what I think they should do, and if they don't, then it'll be awful, and I'll stop it.
So you haven't
took a big risk with this.
So you didn't read anything this week? You didn't do your homework I gave you last night to read all new Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, I didn't. No, I read all my books this week.
Yeah,
except for Superman. That's the one I didn't read this week. But no, I haven't read Guardians of the Galaxy yet because that's not one of my books. I actually have to re-download the Marvel app so I can read that. But
spoilers. I have to discuss this with you. Spoilers, everyone. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So they got the Grandmaster and the Collector have been like back and forth using the Guardians against each other, and the Grandmaster says, I was just testing you, brother. He's like, the universe has changed. Did you feel it? It happened in a blink. Our reality underwent a reordering on a grand scale, in secret and almost without any evidence. Nearly everything is the same, but it's all different now, and I don't know what to trust anymore. I thought the best way to test you after the redesign of this existence was attempt to mistreat your precious collection. They say, I'll use the Guardians as pawns, and they're like, the Contemplator has no head. And the Gardener is missing, although they say by the end of the issue they show.
Wait, the Contemplator, so it's the Contemplator's body but no head now.
I guess, yeah.
But there used to be just the head, no body. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I guess they're saying even the elders of the universe, they're worried.
Yeah, and I understand why.
And the Infinity Stones are all missing. And that's when they give them a history lesson on the stones. Who is it? The Collector, I think, was saying the stones must still exist because we still exist. Our universe is a complicated simulation, one of many, all side by side. Each universe is but a thread in the fabric of a singular tapestry. The Infinity Stones are the representation of what you would call a computer code with the source codes. You can reprogram the reality around us, even traverse different realities. The Soul Stone is quite unique among them. It is not just code, but in fact what you would call a hard drive, a vast, possibly limitless storage device for information. But what happens to information when it passes through the Soul Stone? And he's in Star-Lord's head. He's like, it's all connected. But I guess the Guardians are supposed to hunt down the Infinity Stones, but they're like, well, I guess they say, Thanos has disappeared, and they're like, well, what if that's Thanos' whole plan? He waits for us to gather the stones and then try to steal them from us.
Yeah. Oh, Thanos.
But then they show, they said the Gardener was missing, but he's the one who's been messing with Groot. He's the reason Groot hasn't been growing. But who put this whole idea in the Gardener's head?
Who?
Your old buddy Loki.
Oh, good old Loki. He's always in people's heads.
He's telling me, all these meat creatures, always are destroying your work, and the world tree is unwell. It's overrun with parasites, these disgusting humans. And so
that's our Loki.
Uh-huh.
He is the greatest villain in the Marvel Universe. Like I said, I don't know why everyone's like, oh, the only good villain is Hiddleston. It's like, yes, and he is great at it, It's like, you don't need any extra villains. He does the job, From him whispering in the Red Skull's ears, headcanon, in 1940 to say, oh, there's a Tesseract over there. Go get a Tesseract. Go find it, Then Zola, here's how you open the dang thing. Open that up, okay? Good Zola. Loki's been playing this long game because he's immortal,
Mm-hmm.
and totally played freaking Thanos. I mean, Thanos is, that's the thing for me. It's like, I don't understand. I never understood why Darkseid was supposed to be like a bad guy. I mean, I never really, I know he's a bad guy, but
well,
I never realized, like, why is he like horror? I mean, like, why are we supposed to be, Darkseid to me is like Blastar. He's very powerful, I guess, and kind of weird looking.
Well, people kind of get nervous around you when you start coming up with anti-life equations.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess so. But it's not like it's ever worked,
Yeah,
well,
but it only takes one time, yeah.
Yeah, except it didn't work that time because eventually but now we'll just reverse or whatever they did. Reverse they reversed the curse spell. They had, Samantha wiggle her nose the opposite direction, and that fixed the whole problem. Thanks to the Brown Hornets' amazing powers, they naturally escaped unharmed. That's the thing. And for what it's worth, I guess, like, a person on Earth actually created the anti-life serum Earth. What was it, like billion like dollar bill or the guy? There's a character. I don't know. I read it on Wikipedia once. And it's basically just a mind control spell. The life equation. It's just a mind control spell. It just saps you of your will. Sort of like, freaking Ringmaster, the lowest form of supervillainy. Okay, Purple Man. We're so impressed by you. Yeah, it's guys that are like just supposed to be like the big bads like that aren't particularly manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't think about Darkseid as like the great manipulator. You don't think about him from the shadows pulling strings. No, you think about him showing up and punching something or shooting you with ray beam eyes. It's like, okay. And that's the same thing I think with Thanos. I don't feel about Thanos the way I feel about Loki. Loki clearly is a guy who's whispering in ears. Loki is clearly a guy pulling strings. Lex Luthor pulls strings. Dr. Doom pulls strings sometimes. The Kingpin is all about the strings. Nick Fury is all about the strings. Hydra Cap was all about the strings.
Oh,
those are scary villains.
Oh, that's the other thing. Spider-Man 2, they came up with the origin for the remember there was like a Miles Morales from the originally from the 616. He's like an older guy, and he's like,
oh, there is now.
Well, yeah. Well, they revealed they kind of started revealing his origin in that issue. Guess who he's been friends with for many, many years?
Otto Octavius.
No, Willie Fisk.
Norman Osborn. Oh, Wilson Fisk. Okay.
Yeah, they met in prison.
He's a jovial sort. I could see being friends with Wilson Fisk.
Well, they met in prison, and he kind of saved Fisk's life. So, and helped him take over the mob when he got out. Yeah.
So there we go. So the Miles Morales of the 616 is actually a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, they're probably gonna make him like a tragic figure because eventually he wanted out. He wanted to be with this woman, but I don't know if that's gonna if it lasted.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know why they had to do like a weird retconned origin of 616 Miles Morales.
Well, they never showed who or what a six. Because at the end of the first Spider-Man series, after Peter Parker went to the Ultimate Universe and met Miles, he comes back and is like, "Oh, let me see if there's a Miles Morales in this universe." And they just showed his face going, but they never showed what it was. So Bendis had to come up with something shocking.
Yeah, Bendis. Well, it's fine. It's a story, I guess. I mean, you know what? I get that way, but here's the thing. When I say what I say about DC, it's the same way I am about. There's a lot of Marvel characters like that. Where every so often I'll start reading them, like Spider-Man, and I would read Spider-Man, and then it's just like, why am I reading Spider-Man? What is the attraction of this character? Aside from the fact that he's bad at his job, like Ambush Bug is bad at his job, but at least Ambush Bug is funny about it.
He's
Deadpool
supposed to be the
comes and goes in
everyman.
that way too.
He's
He's not the everyman. The everyman actually works for a living. You know who an everyman superhero would be? You know who the everyman superhero was?
Who?
The everyman superhero was the original Human Torch. Because he became a cop. He said, I have great powers. That means I have great responsibility. So I should utilize this great power in a responsible way and join law enforcement. That's what he did. That's what you do when you have superpowers in a universe. You don't take the law into your own hands. You take them to court. As not Judge Wapner, but the announcer guy would say. You don't take the law into your own hands. You take them to court. That's our system. And, that's the thing, man. That's the thing. Yeah, so no, Peter Parker's not an everyman. Peter Parker is a kid who fell bass backwards into superpowers and just tried to find a way to make money off the deal. Even when he decided, I got to be a superhero, I guess, he's still trying to make money off of it by selling pictures of himself to J. Jonah Jameson. He is never not trying to profit off of his powers. Even Parker Industries is based on the idea of, I supply technology to Spider-Man, who is going to keep us safe, whether it's through Otto or through Peter. It's still about, how can I make money off of these powers? It's never about great power having great responsibility. It's how can eyes get minds? And that's that menace Spider-Man, also known as Peter Parker.
Oh, look at this. I just pulled up on the internet. It's coming up in Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Jameson are going all, it says, the headline says they're going all Frost Nixon.
Oh, yeah. That'll be interesting.
They said something big.
You realize in that means that Spider-Man's Nixon, right?
I am not a crook.
Yeah, he's a menace, though. I am not a menace. But here's what I'm going to say. There was actually an interesting fan theory I read recently that suggested that Jameson was actually a secret promoter of Spider-Man because he is a reporter, and so he should be able to. It's basically the idea is like, well, Lois Lane must know that Superman's Clark Kent because she's a reporter, and they're not that stupid. And the idea is that, so that'd be interesting. They reveal that, Jameson always knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, at least suspected it. He kept Peter Parker around and kept Spider-Man in the news to help him in his thing, even though he always sold it as, Spider-Man's a menace. He knew that Spider-Man was actually going to do good. And by calling him a menace, it forced Spider-Man to have to. Ooh, there's a good story. There's a great story. So before Spider-Man becomes a superhero, he starts out as a celebrity. He's doing talk shows. He's doing his gig. And suddenly he says, oh, now I'm a superhero. And Jameson realizes maybe he is going to be a superhero, but he's only going to be a superhero if I always remind him what a freaking loser he is. And so he keeps on reporting about, this guy's, he's a self-aggrandizing nabob of negativism, He's not doing this for the good of anyone. He's just trying to enrich himself. And that is why Peter Parker doesn't do that, because Even more than Uncle Ben, J. Jonah Jameson was the one who reminded him, you can't use this power for yourself. You want to swing around, you got to make sure you're being selfless and the most righteous man alive if you're going to do that.
Or Jameson, if that's the case, what's his reward? He gets webbed to his office chair every so often.
Sometimes you got to suffer to endure. He's a martyr, He must endure this in order to make Spider-Man be the hero he needs to be, the hero New York needs. Because if he ever let up, Peter would immediately go back to being the villain that he always wanted to be. That Otto let him be.
Your theory might be true, because they showed I think it was in this week's Spectacular Spider-Man. Yeah, Jameson's starting a blog. Now he's not at the Bugle, he has a blog.
He has a blog.
Yeah.
Because that's the future. Me and Jameson.
That's right. Oh wait, I have to find this. It had some kind of, trying to be cute. Oh no, there was the headline, because he was ripping on Spider-Man. Arachnid.
Arachnid. Oh goodness. I'll say this much though. If that's his blog, he's got a great web designer.
Yeah. Well, he has money, doesn't he?
I don't know if he does.
He did. Well, he was the mayor of New York for a while. I thought he had some money, but then he was the mayor of New York.
You only make money as a politician if you're crooked. And he's not crooked. That's the thing. If he was crooked, sure, he'd be rich for days. But he ain't crooked. That's the problem.
So you don't think he didn't make any money as like the at the Bugle back in the day?
Oh, he made money at Bugle and Bugle Media, but he had to divest himself from that when he became mayor. His dad still got money, but his dad invested all that stuff in that quack startup Parker Industries.
Well, his dad's dead, so I wonder if I'm trying to remember if he got an inheritance. He probably got some kind of.
Well, he might have gotten something. Well, except that it was all tied up in Parker Industries stock.
Yeah, well, he had probably split it from that.
Oh, Jameson. Yeah, I don't know how big Bugle Media is in the 616. It's like in like certain versions of the universe, it's like as big as CNN. And he is like, freaking not Roger Ailes, Murdoch and Ted Turner combined, and then in other universes, he's running a failing paper, and like all rich people in comic books, his fortunes, sway with the tides. Oh, goodness. Yeah, so that's my theory, is that certainly J. Jonah Jameson will reveal that. Of course, I always knew you were Spider-Man Parker, and I still think you're a loser.
Ooh.
And I still think that the second the pressure's off, you're going to go back to being that guy, that pro wrestler that you used to be. Because I was, and he's going to say, you know what, Peter? I remember, when we first met, he's going to say, yeah, when I came to Bugle that day, he says, no, Peter, I met you at Madison Square Garden on when you beat Hacksaw, and I saw you there jumping around, and I said, who is this crazy punk? He's doing all this, and he's gonna, he's using that power just to make some money. And I remember watching you as you were going on TV, inspiring crazy kids to build sonic vibro things that get them in trouble, get them arrested. That retcon good. What's his name?
Shocker.
No, not Shocker. When they retold the origin of Spider-Man again, they gave him like this villain who like was inspired by Spider-Man because he was watching Spider-Man at some event.
Oh, yeah. Is that Clash?
I forget his name. Yeah, Clash. That's it. Because he was the one that they came back with just before
Yeah.
Whatever that last thing was, because he was working at Parker Industries and yada yada yada. Yeah, and you're gonna find out that maybe Jameson knew all along and just said, you know what, if people weren't always making you be a hero, you would be the greatest villain there was. Just like that Captain America guy. And that's next season. That's next summer's special. Reign of the Spider-Man.
I don't know. They said they're staying away from big events, Marvel, for the foreseeable future. I mean, they're doing like they might do mini events through some of the books, but all the books are going to be their own event. No big.
Every book's an event. That's
what they said.
Yeah, that's what they said. Well, we'll see what they do. But that's the thing. It's like if Spider-Man didn't have to buy Aunt May heart medication, he'd be freaking down to club, getting some love,
Like dancing like in Spider-Man 3.
Oh yeah, man. Spider-Man Tango. Best Spider-Man dance scene ever.
What is with you in the third one of every movie? Superman 3, Spider-Man 3.
No, 2 was the better Spider-Man film.
Oh yeah.
The Otto story was fantastic.
Oh, of course, Otto.
Spider-Man 3 was too busy. They didn't need to have a Hobgoblin, and they didn't need to do a redemption arc for freaking Sandman that first movie. I was doing it to save my sick kid. It's like, really? Can't you just be a villain with superpowers? Is that so hard?
And what? He's the one who killed Uncle Ben, or he was there? It's like, oh god.
No, he winds up being the guy who killed Uncle Ben, which means that his whole harassment of that poor guy who didn't kill Uncle Ben is now meaningless. It's like, and that to me is kind of like trying to make the Joker be Joe Chill.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, no, it's important for it to be Joe Chill because it needs to be random.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure. I think Joe Chill's the best guy because once you know it's Joe Chill, I think it's best if it's Meth Head Larry, who freaking wants some freaking money.
I mean, they retconned that in the 90s for a while that Batman thought it was Joe Chill, but then looking into it, he's like, wait a minute, it couldn't have been Joe Chill. So it's like, yeah, it was like completely random. So it's like, that gave him Batman a reason to war on criminals for the rest of his life. Because he's like, I don't know who it was, maybe I got him, maybe I didn't,
Yeah. Or maybe he just convinced himself so that he could continue to beat up on mentally ill people. Because if he wanted to thwart crime in Gotham, he could maybe create jobs in Gotham. Aren't these billionaires supposed to be the job creators? He could create a few jobs.
The city's corrupt. They won't let him create jobs.
Yeah, sure. No, they'll let him create jobs. They just want a piece.
Well, yeah.
They want him to trickle down on them. And that's what makes him mad, because he doesn't want to have to spend extra.
Well, do you want to line the pockets of like an Oswald Cobblepot who'll probably take that money and like put more guns on the street? Or
I don't know if Joe Chill Jr. gets a job out of the deal and doesn't turn to a life of crime, maybe it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it to give a guy a job if, like, meanwhile Penguin's giving people guns that kill more people.
Well, why is Penguin going to give people guns? All Penguin wants is money.
Weren't you paying attention last night? He wants to sell those licenses.
Yeah, he didn't sell guns. He sold licenses.
Yeah, but if someone says,
and he controlled the amount of licenses so he could show how crime was decreasing, and that was the point. Is that he was saying we're going to have organized crime, which means that all crimes will be approved. And he basically created the guilt of a calamitous intent.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically which was this idea that what if we that these idiots running around with laser beams, or in this case guns, is dangerous.
Well,
let's create a system in which they can operate and do their craziness, but in a safe and orderly manner.
Well, that's the next step. you buy your license, you got to buy your guns from Penguin too, because that way, if he has all the serial numbers on file, if you go off the reservation, he knows exactly who's.
Okay, so he's making money on it too, but that doesn't but my point is that first off, if he's supposed to, let me put it this way: he trashes a $1 billion bat plane every movie. Okay, he is tearing this stuff apart and just like it meaningless, throwing batarangs around like they're going out of style. The man is not responsible with his money. The amount of money he invests in a batarang probably could send freaking Robin to college instead of putting Robin on a rooftop.
Well, I mean,
imagine that world for 1 minute with Robin and Tim Drake and that other one, like just went to college and didn't become Robin.
Dick Grayson went,
and just like
Dick Grayson went to college, and Jason Todd died before he could go to college, and
yeah, because Batman said, it's important that you also fight criminals as well as actually make a life for yourself. Because my thing is, we got to do what I want to do.
Hey, you're always talking about
Alfred.
You're always talking about Batman beating on mentally ill people. Who says Batman's sane?
That doesn't make it right.
No, but I'm just saying. I mean,
Batman is the Mad King Ludwig of the DC universe. Mad King Ludwig, the guy who built all the fairy tale castles. Basically, like a lot of royalty of the 1700s, he had pretty severe mercury and lead poisoning, and that led to diabolical schizophrenia. And Mad King Ludwig would occasionally have to murder someone. And he would shoot at a peasant, and his servants would bring him a gun, and a peasant would walk out, and he would shoot him, and the peasant would fall down. But what it was actually that they realized that he had the urge to kill. So he would, they would give him a gun that just had powder and no shot. And he would shoot at the peasant that they killed, and the peasant would fall down. And he said, now the urge to kill has passed. At least that's the urban legend. You never heard of Mad King Ludwig?
I don't think I have.
Oh, he's up there with Emperor Norton. You do know who Emperor Norton is, right?
Yeah, bang, zoom to the moon.
No, Emperor Norton, the Emperor of the United States of America and all. No, I'm sorry. Actually, I believe it was the Emperor of North America, and or possibly just the U.S. I'm not sure. It was the Emperor of America. Lived in San Francisco in the early 1800s, and basically declared himself emperor, and minted his own currency, and did all this stuff. And the people of San Francisco, who loved a eccentric at the time, went along with it. Alan Moore did a whole thing, or no, Neil Gaiman did a whole thing about him in the Sandman series.
So another one of these lunatics who gives themselves their own honorific. Is that what you're talking about, Professor?
Basically, yeah, he is. Yeah. He is my inspiration. Yeah. Meaningless honorifics, man. That's what it's all about. Okay, Phil, is there anything else to talk about?
No, I think we've run the gamut tonight.
I think we have, from Nazis to Emperor Norton. From Nazis to Norton. It's your one-stop shop here at Superconnectivity, and it all flowed beautifully because it was all super connected. Okay, Phil, if people would like to reach you and talk to you about Norton and Nazis, where can they do so?
Well, if you want to get a hold of us, especially if you're a creator and you'd like to do an interview like David F. Walker did last episode, you could...
He was so cool!
Yeah, email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter. I'm going to be doing more live tweeting now. The shows are coming back at nightwingpdp. And any thoughts, you can use the Capes and Lunatics voicemail for any of our stuff, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And keep your eye out, Saturday, October 7th, this show and all the Capes and Lunatics shows and other people are going to be part of our online marathon. And if you're a company, if you have any advertising needs, get a hold of me or Rob Southgate because we can help you.
We will shill for you.
That's right.
Unless you're Nazis. We don't show for Nazis.
That's right.
That's our line. That's our only line. Okay, and of course, if you'd like to write to me in the old-fashioned email ways, or Muslim Paz once did, you can do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter. Says I tweet Gotham and Legends of Tomorrow and The Inhumans and all the many wonderful television programs that we can now watch together. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. Thank you for connecting with us once again. Ladies and gentlemen, please super connect with us once again. Good night. Now the time on super connectivity when we dance.
Now we dance.
Don't touch the mic. Surprised Michael Myers never did a Dieter movie. Although he actually probably did, and it was like one of those straight-to-video ones, like the Bat movie.